Well, there's an article I found yesterday that is really interesting for many reasons. It's talking about debt court. If you owe somebody money and they take you to court, you can't go to that court unless you have a lawyer. So if you owe a couple $1,000s, it may cost you a couple $1,000s to get a lawyer, and then you have to pay the other legal fees too. So that's a little crazy. What these people are trying to do, these are pretty cool people. They're called Upsolve, UPSOLVE. And this is a fellow runs it. What they do now, they have an app where you could declare bankruptcy for free. You hear that? Free. But what they're working on now is getting the laws changed, particularly in New York. That's where they're starting with, because you're not supposed to give legal advice if you're not a lawyer. See, the lawyers are like mafia. They won't let you. They made laws to protect their business. And that's sort of interesting. So he's trying to get it as a freedom, freedom of speech kind of thing. That he wants to do is train people, volunteers, that will help people in these who have to go to court because of debts. Okay, and so if you get a free person to do it, then it's worth going. So he's going to train and represent them against it, because look what happened in this and the courts. According to 2020 Pew Charitable Trust, at least 4 million Americans a year are sued over consumer debt. Okay, 4 million are sued in the courts. Okay, less than 10% retain lawyers. Hear that? So only 10% retain lawyers. And more than 70% of cases end up in default judgments. So you automatically lose if you don't show up. So if 70% of people are not showing up, then you automatically lose. Okay. Now here's some more data here. 70% do not show up, right? 2018 and 2019, a total of $265,000 consumer debt suits were filed in the city of New York and around the state. Over 95% of those 250,000 people were not represented by a lawyer. And of those, 88% did not respond to the suit. Okay, so they get sued and they did nothing. Now, what's really interesting about that is a third of those, they didn't owe the money. Now, that is really interesting. Americans do not legitimately owe most of the debt they are used to, according to consumer advocates. In 2010, a report by the Legal Aid Society found that in more than a third, so this is 33% of debt collection cases reviewed, the debt was, one, already paid, had resulted in mistaken identity or identity theft, the statute of limitations on collecting the date had expired, or the debt had been shed in bankruptcy. So they didn't owe the money after all, but they were coming after them because the judge gives you pieces of paper to go and take your car, your child, whatever it is, to pay the debt. And a third of those people lost, but they didn't show up in court. So that's what he's trying to solve there. If they send you something to go to court, don't ignore it. There may be ways around it or whatever. And if this guy gets his thing going, he'll be able to do it. Get you free legal help. Now there is free legal help. So if you get a thing on the to come to court, you could always go to that's the company, Law Help, LAWHELP.org. That's where you can find free legal advice. Okay, a lot of that is the government sponsored. The government, the lawyers who get money to solve that. The problem is a little article about that, about how many of these free lawyers concentrate on debt. See, very few. The legal organizations that offer free representation to low-income people, but they tend to focus their resources on other matters. Okay, evictions, foreclosures, domestic violence, protection orders, stuff like that. Legal services in New York City, the biggest provider of free legal services, has 450 lawyers on staff. Okay, 450 lawyers on staff to give free legal help in New York City. Okay, now what's interesting, only one of those people concentrate on consumer debts. So it makes it harder. But here's the link. You go to Law Help and see if you can find somebody to help you in your state. If not, what I would do anyway is go to the HUD counseling people. They're financial counselors. So they'll know a lot about this and know maybe of other ways to get this kind of help for free. So if you go to this HUD.gov and then you put financial counselor, and you'll find a big map of the United States. And then now this is actually the same map, but it's over on the consumerfinance.gov, which are other good people. You just put in your zip code and you find them. So I'll put these links in the description below. So you have, God, how many millions every year? Pew Research, 10% retain lawyers. Wow. 4 million Americans are sued every year. 4 million Americans. And you know who sues you? Well, of course. Credit card, medical bills, credit card balances, and auto loans. They're the big three. Medical cards. So they got a system, they just crank you through the law system or whatever. You don't show up, so now they could, take your first two children or whatever they're allowed to do. And you'll be paying for the rest of your life. So you want some help with that. And, lawyers, the legal system is, a bucket of worms. And so you got help, and finding free help, I don't think is that difficult. And remember, if you're a senior in this country, you can get free legal help on anything by going to Elder Care Locator, ELDERCARELOCATOR. Elder Care Locator. Okay, you got to find the right one when I miss